Been together so long we can't pretend. Remember the way we used to move, dance all night like young lovers do. Your heart is changing. Now we don't dance like we used to. Silent disco on the floor, baby. Mr. DJ, he'll get me through. When the beat's gone, you can't save me, baby.
This is Broad Radio. For you, by you. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Hello and welcome to Broad Radio. It's so lovely to be with you. I'm Jo Stanley and this is my co-host today, guest co-host, comedian, creative entrepreneur, writer extraordinaire, Diana Nguyen. Hi, Di.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
It's so lovely to have you on this gorgeous day. Now listen, we've got lots to talk with you about to catch up on your news.
We do.
But the first thing I feel like I want to acknowledge, it's a really awful time in the world, right?
Yes.
It's a really hard time. The war in the Ukraine is very, very distressing. And then in the home front, we have these terrible floods in northern New South Wales and Queensland. And look at that
just
image
devastating.
of people in Lismore on their roofs waiting to be rescued. That's an entire town that's just basically underwater.
And this is in Australia. This is our backyard.
It's awful.
devastating.
It's really, really awful. And I don't know if you saw a tweet from Kirsty Wiebeck yesterday who she said, I feel like the worst person in the world for plugging my tour with everything that's going on. I mean, I feel that too. It's hard to understand how to keep going with your life, doing the things you're doing, having the fun and the laughs and what, you trade in laughs.
I do.
Knowing
Yes.
what's happening to people and their lives and how destroyed they are.
I think that's the thing about being human is the resilience that we have and the humanity that these things happen. It's not like a rosy garden. So all we can do is be compassionate, be empathetic, support friends who need our help at this time, and support. There's fundraisers that are happening at the moment to help people who are in strife up in Lismore and up in Queensland.
Yes, so I believe Red Cross is sort of the first go-to if you're wanting to contribute to those who are experiencing the floods in Australia. And for myself, I'm really connected. I don't sort of doom scroll on Twitter, but I do like not to turn away. For me, it's really important to read and hear and see what's happening and sort of hear. Particularly, there are some people who are sharing what's happening for them, like hour by hour in Ukraine.
Yes.
And wow, I feel connected to them somehow.
Yes, I think that's social media nowadays, isn't it? Like if the Vietnam War was documented the way it was, it would be devastating second by second. But we live in that world where news is current.
Yeah,
it's fast news.
Pretty extraordinary. Anyway, so I guess we are thinking of you if you are affected by the floods, and if you are, connected with people, families, friends who are in Ukraine, and also Russia too. Like, the whole world our hearts are breaking. So. But we continue on acknowledging that it is a really difficult time, and we're here to bring you as fun a show as possible. We have some fantastic conversations coming your way. We're going to be checking in with Kerrie Stanley, who is, of course, co-host of Broad Radio. She's up in Sydney, is going to give us a Mardi Gras report.
Yay.
If you can't get to Mardi Gras, she'll be bringing us the fun of the fair here. We're also going to be checking in with Emma Race, who is, she's just an amazing woman. She's co-founder of the Outer Sanctum. Sanctum, one of our favourite podcasts, which is all about women and footy. And she's created with her sister an incredible mentor program for you if you're interested in following a career off the field in sort of the world of sports media. So we'll be able to tell you about that. Plus, we have, we're going to be speaking with Banyai, who is an author who's created a book all about being a traveller and carrying anxiety with you. Oh my gosh, something I very much relate to. And all of that's coming up after this. Broad Radio is proudly supported by Chemist Warehouse. Chemist Warehouse, great savings every day. As always, we say if you're joining us live, it would be awesome to see your comments on Facebook, YouTube. If you'd like to share how you're feeling and any questions along the way, we'd love to hear from you. And if you want to catch up on any of our previous episodes via podcast, Broad Radio on the go, wherever you get your podcasts is the way to do that. Now, Diana.
Yes.
You the last time we spoke with you, which was last year,
Yes.
you were about to go into your festival show, Chasing Keanu Reeves.
Yes.
And you're doing an encore tour of this.
I am. It's actually funny. Last year when we spoke, I was talking about freezing my eggs.
Yes.
All that jazz. And
Yeah.
like 12 months later, I'm not frozen my eggs. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, everyone.
Your eggs are still very not
They're
frozen.
still inside.
Okay. But Chasing Keanu Reeves was sort of about the fact that you're on the search for an evolved partner.
Yes, all involved me. It's actually the show's about chasing happiness and chasing the Diana. If I had to give you the real title of the show should be called Chasing Diana Nguyen.
Right.
But Chasing Keanu Reeves was just a really good marketing ploy.
Okay. But Keanu Reeves represents people who are compassionate, kind.
Gives their seat at the train, stops by the road if someone's car's broken down and is considerate and kind.
Yeah. There are people like that out there. And
Yeah.
it seems you've actually found a boyfriend, which was one of the things. It's kind of the first step towards these babies that you're hoping to have down the track.
Yeah, no, this is exclusive. So I haven't really spoken about this on social media. I did speak to my boyfriend about, can I speak about it? But yeah, I think part of the Chasing Keanu Reeves in 2020 was trying to, do a lot of healing, do a lot of what does Diana want and set a lot of boundaries. I felt like for most of my single life I've been in relationships, I've just been absorbing a lot of other people's energy and not considering mine. And for the last 2 years, I decided I'm going to sit in my energy and what do I really want? And then he popped up about a month ago out of the blue.
And
Bit of
so-
a whirlwind, really.
And so now you're not chasing Keanu Reeves anymore.
No. I've got a show called Chasing Keanu Reeves, and I do talk about it because it is part of the journey of the last 2 years. But look at him. He's just gorgeous, Keanu Reeves.
Keanu, he's heaven. I mean, there's no question.
Look at that smile.
And the Keanu that we all know, we assume he's like, is that we've read reports that he's incredibly compassionate, and anybody should want that in a partner. When you're setting boundaries, what did you identify that you wanted?
I've been in really bad relationships where I allowed things to happen when I didn't listen to the red flag. As women, we ignore the red flag because we think we can change them or adapt to them. And I think that's a big problem with women, is that we actually need to listen to our gut instinct immediately. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years, has been listening to my gut. And I've grown my gut during COVID. It's been amazing.
Oh,
It's had a transformation.
I love that. Well, it's got a superpower now if you're listening to it.
It is so full with chocolate and love and wine. But yeah, it's just been really wonderful just to go, this is my body's saying something, listen to her. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think, I mean, I've been with my partner for 20-something years, right? So it's impossible for me to speak about what it's like to be single in your 30s and heading towards wanting to have a baby and not having a partner. I can't. I don't have lived experience of that. But I do want to empower every woman to feel as though you can expect a person who's good for you. That's okay.
That's okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And also the and I think last year when I was on that journey of freezing my eggs, I was in that journey saying, I'm actually not going to compensate my happiness to meet a man and have a baby with him just to have a baby with him. You and Daz have this beautiful relationship where it's, it's a friendship, but a relationship, a companionship. And that's what I was seeking for, but I wasn't sure I could find that in 12 months. I didn't want to rush that. So that's basically what Chasing Keanu Reeves is about. It's not sacrificing me to love someone. It's actually loving me more than I love them.
Oh, I love that. That's so empowering. It's really beautiful. Hey, but the interesting thing, last week we had on the show sex therapist Vanessa Moradian, and I saw that she's your sex therapist.
I do talk about her in my show, Chasing Keanu Reeves.
So what does one do when you see a sex therapist?
Talk a lot. It's surprising. And it was all during lockdown, on Zoom. So it wasn't like physical sex therapy that people are imagining, but it was actually going through the processes. And it's a word I'm really traveling right now is the word pleasure. Yeah. Like what gives you pleasure, and I talk about joy a fair bit, but when women tap into their pleasure, that moment of breath or, using toys, like what does that mean to a woman and when she's alone? And I think it's really powerful when a woman sits with herself, whether like burning a candle or putting sexy music in and grinding and, moving. That's pleasure for me. It's not necessarily sex. Like so people think sex therapy. It's not sex therapy. It's pleasure therapy. And that's what Vanessa taught me. Well,
I love it because I don't think that we give ourselves permission. We talk a lot about permission on this show, and a lot of it, what you're talking about, is going, I'm prioritizing myself right now.
And I think that's really sexy for men when they find women who do prioritize themselves.
I got to tell you, I'm very tired, and if I was to give myself that time, I think I would fall asleep on myself. I'd light a candle and then I'd just like,
make sure you blow out the candle before you go to bed.
Well, it's fantastic to have you on the show.
Thank
Kathy
you.
agrees. Excited to see Diana on the show. Thanks for joining us, Kathy, and for sharing that comment. Well, all right. It's a great old time in New South Wales at the moment because Mardi Gras is on. I have never been. So those of us who aren't able to get there, let's find out what is going on with Mardi Gras this week. And we're joining Broad Radio co-host Kerrie Stanley. Hi there, Kez. Oh no, where's her volume? Have we got sound on, Kerrie? Oh no.
Oh, you got to see the sparkles.
She looks extraordinary.
I can see it vibrating.
Oh no. I don't know. Well, do you know what we could do? Because I do know our second guest is there too. So maybe I think Kez might need to go out and back in again. I don't know about that. Let's see if and why don't we see if we can go straight to our second guest, if Kez can join us after we chat with Bunny. So is Bunny there? Can we hear you, Bunny?
You can hear me. I'm here. I had the same problem before, so I had to duck in and duck back out. So here I am. And this works for me too, actually, because I've just long story, very tired. I'm on my partner's iPad and I'm just watching the battery go down and down. So this works for me and my anxiety to be on now before I watch it get to that critical 20% mark where
oh my God,
that palpitations while we talk.
I get it. That is absolutely a 21st century issue. If you're just watching the batteries just deplete before our very eyes. Well, let's give you a proper introduction then, because the world is opening up and people are considering traveling again. For myself, though, I'm an anxious traveler pre-COVID. I just really struggled with traveling. But you've written a book called Anxious Girls Do It Better, a travel guide for slightly nervous girls on the go. And I bloody love it, Bunny. I think it's
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, we are similar, you and I. I'm very risk averse. One of the things I always say is no one dies sitting on a couch. So I tend not to do anything adventurous.
I'm having kittens right now because we're going to Noosa in a week, and that for me is like scaling Everest. So that gives you an idea of where I'm at with adventure.
Okay, so then
Noosa is not most people's idea of a stressful holiday.
It's supposed to be very relaxing. But tell us then what when you're someone who has lived with anxiety, but one of the things that you talk about in the book is that there are upsides of anxiety. How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that anxiety gets a really bad rap. It's not sexy. There are plenty of films and television shows depicting women with depression who still have, voracious sexual appetites and are gorgeous. And if you're my age, you grew up with Betty Blue, the kind of wildly unhinged, sexed up kind of depressive. But we don't have any of those sort of role models as anxious girls. You don't see, wildly unhinged, overtly sexual women in films, checking the gas is switched off over and over again, And so and I've spent my whole life sort of feeling ashamed for not being more chill, or for being worried, or for not kind of fitting the image that was so ubiquitous in the 90s. And that I think probably still persists of, the ideal woman being someone relaxed and easygoing and not like other girls, not like those kind of, neurotic other women. And it's only through a lot of therapy and getting older that I've kind of gone, well, actually, like, everything that I like about myself is kind of comes down to being neurotic. I'm funny. I'm a keen observer of life. I've managed to keep myself out of mortal danger because I am risk averse. And I just sort of wanted to put it out there that, out of control anxiety is not a positive thing. So, I'll make that very clear. But leaning towards the kind of anxious, leaning towards anxiety can be, it keeps you alive, And I think fear, particularly in the last couple of years, fear has been really weaponized by the right. Ooh, watch out! I'm going to go on a political rant about the right, and which really doesn't, which really, kind of takes. I think fear should be respected and harnessed, and can be a really powerful tool. And so I wanted to kind of give props to the anxious girls. None of your favorite TV shows would exist were it not for anxious people. Relaxed people don't make TV. They don't make radio. Yeah. They don't make any of the fun stuff that has kind of nourished us during the pandemic.
You're so right. I think anxious people are very active people.
Yeah.
The other thing I love about the book is that you're giving us permission. Like, I always say, I'm going to say no, okay? I want to say no to things that scare me. That's my entitlement, right? People get really cross, like, oh, you should go on the, the big, the big rides at the show and all those sorts of things, or why don't you go scuba diving? And why do you? I'm like, well, I don't want to. Okay, that's my choice. Yeah. However, you can still travel, as your book shows, but you can do it in a way that somehow cares for yourself.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's been so empowering for me to actually be able to say, no, I don't want to go camping. It makes me anxious not having running water, and no electricity. I don't like to do these things, and this is just who I am. But when I think, if your anxiety is around spiders and rides, then it's absolutely give yourself permission to wholeheartedly reject those things. But if you reject travel because of anxiety, you are really missing out on, some incredible experiences. So that's why I think the book is really useful. I hope it is anyway.
I was reading the book recently, and I was like, oh, I need a chapter about how to deal with your 60-year-old mother on a plane.
Woof. The revised edition. I'll make a note for any upcoming editions to do that. I'm feeling triggered at the idea of being on a plane with my nearly 70-year-old mother. It's stressful enough just trying to get her to open an email, on a new device. No, this device doesn't have my Gmail. So is that something that's coming up for you?
I do talk it in Chasing Keanu Reeves. Like, we went to Vietnam, and my mum decided to pack 90 kilos between two people.
Wow, what was she taking?
Come see the show. But my mother was so adamant that this was what she was going to bring in the plane, and I was anxious for 24 hours knowing that we were going through Jetstar, and that the budget, Yeah, I can be an additional writer.
Okay,
yeah, we'll work on it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can be a contributing editor. 90 kilos is both of my children and then a third child. So yes. I would love to know what she had in there. Yeah.
I will say though,
but
Bunny,
I do understand. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love that you share a packing list in your book, because that is one of the things that I'm crippled by is packing.
Yes, well, that was going to be my next point, that your mother is displaying classic symptoms of travel anxiety by just packing the kitchen sink. So I thought it would be really helpful to have a list in there of what you do and don't need, because until I wrote this, my inclination was the same, was to just pack as much as possible. My toiletries bag was absurd, and I had a very, very sobering moment at Changi Airport in Singapore, where I had my toiletries bag open and I needed to vomit, and my middle daughter needed to vomit, and I had my youngest on the floor with a full nappy, and realizing, one of a few occasions where I've realized that this toiletries bag is not going to be the thing that saves me from, travel disasters, that you can't kind of pack your way to a seamless holiday. So I think the more kind of structure you can put around those things that you kind of can control, like packing and booking your seat on the flight, and knowing, how you're going to get from A to B when you arrive at your destination, those things you can control. Those are the variables you can control. So, that was my thinking with that list.
It's got some really great advice from experts too, one particularly from an aviation safety specialist and pilot, which actually for the first time made me go, we do have some control when we're on a plane to be on the plane as safely as possible. That's kind of the first time I thought of it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Same. And look, I haven't flown since I did that interview with Libby, but it was so tremendously reassuring. Like I said, this is a woman who knows more about aviation safety than anyone on the planet, just about, and has survived a hijacking, which I could have written a whole other book about.
Wow.
Incredible. TWA, Perth to Tassie, 1983. Look it up. There's actually not much about it. But anyway, she... So don't look it up, perhaps, and I'll just write a book about it. But she knows aviation inside out, and she's not scared of flying. And the more that I chatted to her, the more I realised that, it's not actually, like, if your plane does get into trouble, which is so incredibly rare, it's not a given that you're going to be a casualty. There's so much that you can do to help yourself. And I think... I don't have the page open in front of me, but the stats, again, are very reassuring. I think it was something like, it was well upwards of 50% of even the most serious plane crashes are survivable, So, it's an extraordinarily safe means of transport. But I do think that it just comes down to humans not having wings. We just instinctively go, nope, this is wrong. I was not born to fly. I don't live in a nest. I don't want to do this,
It's true.
But information is power when it comes to flying, for sure.
Yes.
I've been referring back to her chapter frequently over the last week, knowing that I have a flight coming up.
Well,
and things like reading the safety card, on every single flight, like just drilling down that information so that you're not kind of having to dig into the deepest recesses of your mind to access that when if you do get into trouble. So knowing that you've kind of really, drilled down on that information, back to front. I feel like such a dag every time I fly, because I always study the safety card. But these are the things that do empower you to feel more in control when you're flying.
Yes, and counting how many rows to the exit. That is the most. When someone said that to me, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to do that every single time. Every time.
Yeah.
It just
and
helps.
my tip, which Libby didn't advise, was if you can get a seat where you're able to make eye contact with the cabin crew, I just eyeball the cabin crew the entire time. I'm so sorry, any cabin crew that are listening, because it's probably really unpleasant for you. But I find that reassuring just looking at them, because they maintain these perfectly calm facades. And so seeing how calm they are, how calm and relaxed they are, helps me to quell my own anxiety. Again, probably very unpleasant for the cabin crew, but
not great if they look like they're panicking though. If they're panicking, you're in trouble. We've had Leanne is telling us that her mum, after insuring that she had so Leanne says, my mum, after ensuring I had my medication in boxes with script info, dropped her Xanax wrapped in Glad wrap at the feet of the immigration lady. So now the advice there is don't look like a drug smuggler, just generally speaking.
Don't drop your Xanax in front of. Oh, that's amazing. That's wonderful. But actually, it is really wise because I travel sometimes with Valium and other sort of painkillers for various medical conditions I have, and in order to not look like a drug addict, it is very important to have a letter from your GP stating what medications you're taking and why, because those that's another kind of area that you kind of can run into trouble with. So yeah, on that note, Nana Bunny says, make sure you have a letter from your GP with all your medications, because what's okay and over the counter here can be a controlled substance in another country. Sorry,
Super
veering
useful.
into the very mundane there, but
no, I love it, and it's got this. I can't recommend the book enough. It's got really useful tips, including from someone who is a sexual health expert who recommends having layers of panty shields in your undies, like
the panty liner layer cake. Yeah, I love that idea so much. It's like the world's most malodorous wedding cake. This is my friend who does work in sexual health, so she does know a thing or two about vaginas, and so she advises if you're a sweater, which I am, to just have a layer cake of panty liners, and as it starts to get, this is an awful word, but I can't think of another right now, moist.
Yes.
Just go to the bathroom. I'm so sorry. Can't believe I just said moist on radio.
I love it. Keep going.
I could feel it coming down from my breath. It's going, don't say that word. But anyway, so you go to the bathroom and you take off one panty liner and then you got a nice fresh one underneath. And this for me is such a revelation because I'm a sweater and I'm a nervous flyer. So, and it's very, you know how unpleasant it is to sit in that.
It is brilliant.
So, yeah. The
Love
other
it.
idea, though, which I think is slightly less cracked, I think Maggie's idea is genius, but it's so incredibly lazy, is that you can just take a packet of panty liners and keep changing them. You can also do that if you don't want to kind of sit atop a, palace of panty liners. A throne of panty liners. Yeah.
Oh, look, we love the book. Head out and get it. Bunny Banyai, thank you so much. Not all of us are travelling overseas. Maybe we're going to Noosa, or maybe it's just if you're catching a train to work.
Yes.
Sometimes there's a lot of anxiety there
absolutely.
as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Bunny. It was great to chat with you.
Great to chat with you. Thanks, guys.
And we'll have more Broad Radio after this.
Bye.
See ya. Now, I'm really hoping that the beautiful Kerrie Stanley is there ready and waiting for us to talk all things Mardi Gras. She looks fabulous. She's amazing. And she sounds fabulous. Oh, my God.
Sparkling away. I'm bringing a little bit of daytime sequin to the show, doll. First, let me say, how funny is Bunny? I was cackling away. Great advice too.
Great advice. And also this, look, I think we've got to embrace the word moist. I know people
love
hate
it.
it, but
I love a moist chocolate cake.
Everyone loves moist chocolate cake. I know. If you happen to watch the Great Australian Bake Off, geez, they say moist over and over.
That's a good word.
I can imagine. Let's get off the moist. It's very moist here in Sydney, I have to say, because it's raining a lot. Sun's slightly peeking out now, but you didn't dial me in to talk about the weather.
No.
We're here to talk about Mardi Gras.
That's right. So, Kez, I've never been to Mardi Gras. So what am I missing out on? I know.
Well, it's not just a parade and a festival and a party at the end of it is a 3-week festival that has started a couple of weeks ago. We had Fair Day that was on 2 weeks ago, which was incredible. Thankfully, we had really nice weather for that. So we had lots of performances, cultural experiences, community all comes out. So it's where everyone comes together. Oh, you're seeing a couple of fun people there. Comes together and celebrates. So, and Mardi Gras is not just about the partying, though there is a lot of that goes on, which is fabulous. But it's also very much about community roots at heart. So you're seeing a lot of queer arts culture that goes on. A lot of currently we've got one more exhibition that's coming up. Sorry, that's currently on that you can get along to, called Queer Arts. Yesterday's Hero is the golden age of gay, and it celebrates the many Sydney gay and lesbian artists who contribute to the gay aesthetic and challenge the heterosexual norm. So that's currently on. There's a really fantastic Queer Arts, the National Gallery, sells out super quickly. I couldn't even get a ticket. I'm like, damn it, I missed out on that one. But that was super quick. But also, we also celebrate our sporting communities, which is really fun. So it's another way of connecting us as well. So at Fair Day, all of the local sporting communities, gay, LGBTIQA plus communities come together, and they try and recruit you for fun times, for social activity, for health and fitness as well. And so myself and Lexi went along to an open day on Saturday with Different Strokes, which is a dragon boat racing team. Oh, there's a picture of them there.
Wow.
Oh,
look at those arms.
And, yeah, I plan to have arms like that in there. But so we went along, and we're joining that team as a way to, having just moved to Sydney, though we know quite a few people here, it's nice to connect with some new people, and also to get along and I want to get a little bit fitter and healthier. And so why not do it with like-minded people? So and that's what's really fabulous too.
Kez, you mentioned there with that exhibition the history of Mardi Gras, and I think that's really important that we remember that it was, way back when it began, it was a political statement. It was like an act of rebellion to reclaim the streets and that incredible gay pride, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And the 78ers are still celebrated, of course, every year. They were the original people that marched along the street, along Oxford Street, that came up against the rebellion with the police brutality at that time. That wasn't great, but things I think are turning. It's now seen as a celebration. We have the forces on our side to get behind it, which is wonderful. So, but it is not just all about the frivolity. We come to this time of the year to celebrate all of us, all the colours of the rainbow behind, but also to remember where we came from, and to also pay respect and be thankful that, for those, we stand on the shoulders of those that came before us, and we need to be very grateful for that.
I also love, one of the things I love about the LGBTQI community and Mardi Gras as an event is that it really flies against ageism. And I read about one performer she's an 80-year-old transgender woman who's still going strong, who's going to be appearing in the parade. I just love that inclusiveness, Kez.
Look, and that's so essential. The parade itself, we're also seeing a lot of first-timers that are coming through. Of course, every year we have first-timers, which is so exciting to see those groups coming through. We also have a lot of corporate sponsorship that comes through. Now, I know that kind of divides some people about having the sponsors coming in, but without corporate sponsorship, festivals like this can't exist. And we need to acknowledge those as well. So it's not just about, they want to have a bite of the queer dollar, but they're putting money into a really expensive production, as we know. For anyone that's put on anything, it costs a lot of money to put things on. So it is essential that, that we have those sponsorships. So that's great that we can get behind those. But just about the ageism, like anybody can come in this parade. And we're seeing as I said, all types, all backgrounds, and which is fabulous. Of course, this year we're seeing it again differently. It's going to be at the SCG. Because of COVID restrictions. Well, the restrictions are lifting, which is excellent. But I marched in the parade last year with ABC Pride into the SCG. And let me tell you, I'll never go into the SCG to watch a game of football, though I love that people love football. But that's not for me. But walking into the SCG and having a packed stadium screaming, and it's colourful and the music's blaring, there is nothing like it. It was quite incredible. Yeah. So that as a participant was amazing. This year I'm actually going to be, because I'm going to be working on it, it's going to be televised on ABC. Fantastic. How exciting for the next couple of years. So it'll be on ABC iView for catch up, but also live as well. And I'm just working behind the scenes on it this year. So it'll be something completely different. And let's hope the sun comes out and doesn't rain on our parade.
Oh, I know, darling. I hope that's the case too. Well, you look amazing, and I know you make everybody look amazing. You're truly a miracle worker when it comes to making us all look gorgeous. But thank you so much for bringing that little slice of Mardi Gras to Broad Radio today.
My pleasure, darlings. Happy Mardi Gras.
Yeah, you have a fantastic time. We'll see you again soon, Kez.
See ya.
Take care.
We'll have more Broad Radio after this.
My workout routine comes with me wherever I go, and so does Bondi Protein. It gives me the post-workout nutrients I need. Fuel your body with Australian-made Bondi Protein.
Broad Radio. Talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time at broadradio.com.au or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2 a.m. existential crisis, we've got you covered. Broad Radio, here for more.
Well, Diana, what joy it is to celebrate women and especially amplify the voices of women who are working so hard for change. And so I'm overjoyed to welcome our next guest. She's the co-founder of the podcast The Outer Sanctum, which is one of my favourite podcasts. It's women talking about footy. Who doesn't love that? And then she's also the co-principal of Making the Call, which is an amazing mentoring program for aspiring female Aussie rules broadcasters. She's getting ready. She's on the way to the airport because she's heading to Sydney, hopefully to win an award. Her name is Emma Race. Hi, Em.
Hello, Diana. Hi, Joe. How are you? It's so nice to be with you. I can give you a full traffic report if you like.
It's a full news anchor show.
It's the best.
I'm doing weather. I'm doing traffic out here. I got sport for you later on in the bulletin.
Oh, well, I can't tell you how grateful I am that you're available to us when you are heading out to the airport, because we were just talking about travelling and being anxious flyers. And certainly for myself, I would need to, I'm like a gate sitter. I like to be there at least 2 hours before the flight leaves. So, you know, the fact that you're sitting there, you know, talking to us on the way there in the car is amazing.
Well, I am not a traveller. I spend much time at night wondering what I would pack if I was going on Survivor. So packing tips are essential for an anxious girl.
Yes, it's true. So, Em, congratulations on everything you've done. The way you promote women in football particularly, but sport generally, but women on the field, off the field, in footy, it's a true inspiration. We're so grateful to you. I am anyway. Tell us about Making the Call specifically.
Yeah, it's Making the Call is such a labour of love because I run it with my sister, who is currently driving and looking for a car park at the airport.
Great sister.
And so, you know, we're not Thelma and Louise, we're way more Selma and Patty, but it's such a delight to be able to amplify women's voices, but to be doing it with my actual sister, because there's a real authenticity with that. I can't really pull the wool over her eyes at any point. And how it came about was, as you said, we are podcasters with the Outer Sanctum, and we have been doing that for over 7 years. And what we realised was that we were always talking about how there was pathways for women in sport and women in football especially. And what we didn't see was that being matched in the broadcast boxes, which is where we kind of do most of our work. So where there's been lots of pushes to get women into boardrooms and diversity into boardrooms and on the field. And when I talk about women, I mean all women and non-binary people. And we just recognised that there was a gap there, and we were going to do it anyway. We were like, well, we can hook people up. And then we had this idea and we took it to the Victorian State Government through the Office of Women in Sport and Recreation, and they supported us, which means that we've been able to take this a lot further than we thought we ever would. And the dream is just one that keeps on giving. We've got almost 40 graduates now, and there's about 25 to 30 of them now working in the industry, which is just mind-blowing.
Yes. So when someone because the enrolments are open at the moment, applications are open at the moment. In fact, they close on the 10th of March. So if you are listening and watching this and thinking, oh my God, I really want to be a commentator.
I think I need to join in because I've done some commentary for the AFL. And I don't know if you've got any many Asian Australian women snorting and commentating the football.
We don't have enough people that snort during the commentary at all, Diana, and we're for all diversities. And in fact, the course that we're calling out for at the moment does have a focus on trying to elevate women's voices from diverse communities. So that is from the CALD communities, from LGBTIQA+ community, from regional Victoria, from people from diverse sports, because, you know, as I think all feminists who study the application of feminism in the real world understand, is that often it's white, cis, able-bodied women who are being elevated in the push for feminism. And we really believe in an intersectional and open and supportive sisterhood for all, and so that's a real focus for this part of this course. And so we really do want people to apply who've got any interest. It's not about having ever done it before, but really, if you have a passion for sport, there could be a place for you in this community, and we would love to support you on that journey.
What's the response been like? Have you had resistance from mainstream media in this?
It's so interesting, Jo. We have had almost, I would say 99% of the time, so much support from industry. And what I think the change has been that they've known that they've had to change. They've known that change was required and they were going to get called out on it, but they also appreciate that a diverse commentary box makes the storytelling so much more interesting, and it makes their broadcast so much better, and so does not getting cancelled. So we have had so many people contacting us. The inbound calls from all of the networks have been extraordinary, but I will say this. It is unsurprising that nearly 100% of the gatekeepers and the people who are helping us from inside industry are all white men. So our next big step, I think, is to make sure that there is a female head of sport at one of the networks. Yeah. Could be you, Diana.
Oh no, it could be Jo.
It's not me. No, I've got my own thing. I've got my own thing going on here.
Me too. I've got my own thing. I'm chasing Keanu. So
but the thing is too, I wonder about the resistance from the audience, because I mean, I saw that terrible tweet yesterday or the day before, Sarah Perkins playing for Gold Coast, and, you know, people saying horrendous things, body shaming her. And, you know, it feels like the audience is so slow sometimes to like the mainstream audience away from AFLW to catch on.
Yeah, I think that's true. But I think what happens, I think that there's been a major shift. And I should be really clear and say we don't just talk about footy. So at Making the Call, we've got people who commentate lawn bowls, cycling, women's baseball, men's baseball, basketball. We've had people working on the tennis, on the Olympics, all of those sports. And I think that when you see something like Sarah Perkins being trolled for the way that she looks on the field, what that demonstrates is that the people doing the talking have no idea what they're dealing with. Now, I look at that image and I see, well, obviously I see Sarah Perkins, who can kick the absolute pigskin off that ball, and whose story of tenacity and her ability to overcome challenges has been one of the most extraordinary stories of my lifetime. Now, those people who are trolling her, they have no idea of that story. There's no way that they could. And so when we have diverse commentary boxes, or we have women telling that story, they tell the story of Sarah Perkins so differently, because it lands differently, and because they know what it feels like to be Sarah Perkins. You know, like, I know what it feels like to feel nervous about putting on sports clothes and getting in the public eye, and I just hate that Sarah has to deal with that. But I think that it's essential. I think that it's actually part of the change to have more diversity in the commentary box, because then you'll get people giving their authentic real world experience, which is more matched with the people who are on the field.
What was it like for you commentating, Dana? Was it difficult? Because I find the thought of that terrifying, even just remembering a player's name. I'd be like, number 4 passes to number 7.
Look, if you've got a Hawthorn team, I would know the numbers and the team players, but I didn't know. So it was just like, you just yell a lot and just say yo, which is when they kick the goal. That was how I was commentating.
I'm thinking that you're sharing a little bit more skill to the actual, the craft of commentating, Em.
Yeah, we are. And I guess that when we started this whole process, what we were anticipating was getting a bunch of people who wanted to call play-by-play. And play-by-play has traditionally been really a space held by men and Kelly Underwood. And and we wanted to make sure that we were developing the next pathway of talent for those jobs. But what has happened, because, you can never quite guarantee what the results are going to be, is that what we have now is women who are analysts and statisticians and producers and storytellers and writing features for The Guardian and ESPN and The Age. And so it's been a much more holistic kind of result, I think, that all the women who've done our course come with all of their different skill sets and diversities as well. And we've been able to embed them into the industry to not just call play-by-play. So where we offer support especially with our introductory course, which is the one that we're calling out for applicants for now, is we give a really great overview of how it works, how teams are picked and how people are getting jobs and how you pitch. One thing that will not surprise you, but is something that we really try to help people overcome, is that what we hear from the heads of sports departments is that men are knocking down the door, that every time these guys open their email, there's like 50 guys asking for a job, and women just are not doing that. And there's a lot of reasons why they're not doing that, because firstly, they've never been able to see themselves in this job. So why would they apply for something where they've got no one that they can see that looks like them? And secondly, little girls haven't grown up calling the play-by-play while they've been kicking footies in the backyard, because we weren't playing at the highest level. We didn't have anything to see to replicate that. So all of the skill sets, we need to start embedding them in earlier and earlier, I think, into schools even. But there's been such a culture shift, I think, with the rise of women's sport and how popular all of our Australian women's teams are, and also with the rise of AFLW, that I think that we're going to see a huge cultural shift anyway. I think people will be more drawn to these kinds of jobs, and certainly this AFLW season, I think there's only been a handful of games where there may not have been any games where there's not been a woman on the coverage, whereas in the last couple of years, that was absolutely the norm, and there might have been one or two women in commentary roles or expert commentary roles. And so now it seems really strange if it's an all-male commentary team.
Oh, you're doing such great work, Em. You mentioned the AFLW there and our girls playing. I know that you have 3 daughters. I have a daughter, and all of our girls play footy. And I have seen in my daughter a shift in her confidence just because she now plays a contact sport. And I reckon there's a lot about that I can see her now being much more willing to go into a boardroom and demand a little bit more, to be seen and heard in a different way, because footy kind of gives you that, don't you reckon?
Oh, totally, Jo. And I don't know if you guys have ever played. I don't know if you've played, Diana. You're a bit younger than me. But
close
one
behind.
of the first interviews we ever did on the Outer Sanctum was with Bridget Barker, who headed up the huddle at North Melbourne, which is a really great community outreach that they have there. And she's been a player in her life. She's younger than me, and she also became a coach, and she headed up the Melbourne Uni Muggers, which is a really traditional footy team here in Victoria for women's footy. And she talked about the fact that girls who grow up knowing what it feels like to take a bump or to play contact sport, they walk differently down the street. And I couldn't help, it's never left me, that theory, because I actually don't really know what it feels like to be bumped. I don't know what my body's capable of. I don't know how strong I am because I've never really tested it, not in that way. And so I think how wonderful. And I know that, there can be some concerns around safety and concussion and all those things, but as girls play from a younger age, they're learning the skills to do it properly. And I do see that same confidence in my daughters, that they will pick up a footy, take it to school, and they'll start the game. And I never would have had the confidence to do that.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we got to let you go because you've got to catch a flight, and you're heading to Sydney because you're up for an award.
Yay.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. Yes, it's the Sport Australia Media Awards, which we're pretty excited to go to. There's my sister and my partner in crime, the Selma to my Paddy. And so we're heading to Sydney, and the awards are tomorrow night. It'll be fantastic. If we win, then, that's fantastic. And if we lose, they clearly got it wrong.
No, Dad, you were robbed. Absolutely. Thanks so much. We do encourage you to head along to the website. It's the VicGov Change Our Game website is where you can register for this incredible mentoring program, which can really launch you on who knows what career path. It's amazing. Congratulations
what
to
I
you.
love about, thanks, Joe, and thanks, Diana, and just I love that. Broad, you and I actually had a conversation about this at a Christmas party several years ago, Joe, about your aspirations and that we're both moving in this direction. It helps us that you're doing what you do, because it means we're all coming up together. We're all pushing for change at the same time. And, that's what I've learned, that if we all just do our bit in the corner of the world that we can control or that we can help and assist with and throw the ladder down, then we'll all get there just a little bit quicker. So I salute you at Broad Radio. I absolutely love what you guys are doing, and it's been an absolute treat to talk to you today.
Oh, thanks, love. I did warn our followers on Twitter that it was going to be an embarrassing fangirl session. So,
Totally, and Diana and I didn't even get into Hawthorne.
No, we haven't. We'll catch up next time.
Yeah, that's for off air. Well, good luck with the award, and do please, register your interest if you want to do this incredible program. Thanks to you, Em, and your beautiful sister, Luce. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thanks, ladies. Bye.
Bye.
I'm sorry I didn't let you talk about Hawthorne.
Oh, no, it's fine. There's a divide in this room.
I'm a Collingwood supporter through and through. And I have been hurt by Hawthorne in the past. I have a lot of history.
Through it. We can do it together.
And I know what Hawthorne supporters are like. You and Em would have just
taken over.
That's it. I wouldn't have been able to wrestle it back.
Yes.
Hey, so just one last thing I want to talk to you about before we wrap up the show today, Diana. I know, and I'm just so inspired by your work, and you have created a show for the Melbourne Theatre Company. So theatre shows are hard to make, right?
Yes, it's easy when you're independent and you're doing it at the Melbourne Fringe, and that's my training from university. I'm a theatre maker, but this is a multi-million-dollar theatre play that I've co-written with Petra Kalev at MTC, and it's a massive journey for the last 2 years during lockdown. That's when we started writing this play called Larinda. And it's I'm really so honoured that this year it's going to be part of the season at MTC.
Incredible.
It is.
So it's an adaptation from a book.
By Alice Pung, who is a role model. She did an anthology called Growing Up Asian in Australia, and I was part of it in 2008. My short story is called 5 Ways to Disappoint Your Vietnamese Mother. And I remember Alice emailing me saying that's one of the hilarious stories I've ever read about you growing up with your mum, which is a story of itself if you want to see it chasing Keanu Reeves this year. But yeah, she endorsed me and said, I want you to write this with Petra, this story about a young 15-year-old girl who enters a private school, a suburban girl, a very low socioeconomic, but her parents have this dream for her to enter a new world, a new education, a new system. And we travel through her lens. And so it's very exciting. The cast is all Asian Australian, and I'm excited. I'm excited to show what you can do during lockdown on multiple Zooms with Petra. But it's been wonderful.
So for people who buy a ticket, like they see a show they want to see, and they buy the ticket and they go along and they sit in the audience and they imagine, I guess, that a play is written, then you rehearse, then you put it on, right? It's so much more than that, isn't it?
Oh, so much more. So the writing development of it took about probably 8-9 months, like 2 times a week, 4 hours on Zoom, and luckily we had lockdown, so we were consistently writing and living in this world. And then you do multiple developments in the room. So you get people to listen to it and act it out, and you go, oh, that was not great. Take it out, rewrite. There's a playwright named Felicia King. She's had a show at MTC called Golden Shield. She says the best script is when you do thousands of drafts.
Wow.
You don't do one draft and you don't
put
it on
5, you do
multiple thousands of drafts.
What are you looking for though in that development process where you're in the rehearsal room or the development room and you've got actors and they're giving you the lines? What are you listening out for?
You're listening to points where it lands as an audience. So that's the thing about theatre. And we talked about movies before, like Keanu Reeves. That he's in a movie, you can make judgment on it after you've watched it a couple of weeks later and go, oh, I didn't like it or liked it. But with theatre, the review is the moment you walk out. Mm-hmm. You go, I liked it or I didn't like it. It's like a gut. It hits you straight away. So what we do as writers is we listen to where it hits. It lands, where it moves the story, and it allows for empathy and or association to the story. So there's been a lot of crosses in the drafts, and you think you're funny during lockdown, but you're not. So you're like, no, that wasn't a great joke. Not at all.
Your jokes were different during lockdown because your audience was the same people you saw every day. And, people laugh when you've got nothing else to do. You tend to laugh at not much, like you're desperate.
They're desperate, yeah.
Whereas now we're out in the world, our standards have lifted a touch.
That's it. And that's why the development was so important, is that you heard it from the readers, where it landed and if it made sense in their mouths. So it might make sense in the writer that this is what they would say, but when an actor reads it, you get like, oh, hang on a minute, no, oh, there's something there. So you have to keep shifting and adapting the script.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're in rehearsal end of June and we open August 6th. Of 2022.
Wow, that's been a long road.
Yes. Yeah, 2 years. Yeah.
And how long will it run here in Melbourne, and will it tour?
4 weeks. Mm-hmm. It will run for 4 weeks. And the great thing about being a writer is, it's just the royalties of some theatre company around the world picks it up.
Yes.
Take me to New York or London. Petra and I would love it. But yeah, I think one of the things we've learnt with the pandemic is that you can write anywhere. You can, create a show like this anywhere. That's what you did during, that's why you started your show.
Yeah, we created Broad Radio during lockdown.
Before the studio happened.
Well, I feel blessed to be someone who creates, though.
Yeah.
I just think that's a real gift, because some people don't have that vocabulary to go, okay, what is it I can create? And I don't, you might be a writer, you might be a singer, you might just dance in your lounge room, but some people sort of aren't yet versed in how to connect with that part of themselves. I feel really lucky that I have that.
Well, that's why we connected. I think that's why our synergy is very similar, because you are a creative entrepreneur. Like, you're always consistent creating. And I remember you came on the Snortcast 2 years ago and Emma talked about, you had this broad radio idea. And I remember you talking about it on my show about broad radio, and you created it. And that's why we're here. And then we've got this team around you.
It's been a long journey too, yes. And when you write the play about broad radio, that'll be another 2 years. Everything's a long journey. I just want to say a shout out to some of the people who've been sharing their thoughts along the way in the show today, which has been so lovely. Etche says to us, small cells make the organism, and women need to keep creating these spaces such as Broad, future women, etc. Because yes, I agree with you. Small cells make the organism. It's like just this beautiful movement that's reaching out like tentacles.
That's it.
Yes. And thank you to Katrina, who says women's sports commentators change the tone and dynamic. It's so true. Such a difference to hear that voice and to that perspective. Hey, Diana, thanks for being my guest co-host today. We'll have to have you back another time.
Thanks for having me on. It's been so joyful.
Oh, by the way, you're heading off to Adelaide, of course, because you're an ambassador for the Adelaide Fringe.
I know. It's a lot of things I am. Yes, I'm heading to Adelaide Fringe next week for the Fringe Festival. It's going to be so great. It's the start of the festival circuit. So, Melbourne's right after, then Sydney and Brisbane with Chasing Keanu Reeves. So come chase me.
Get out and see the show and see lots of shows because, oh my gosh, it's time to support our performers. They've been struggling, of course, over the last 2 years. It's great to see them back. And we'll be back with Broad Radio next week. We'll see you then.